Kia updated the 4th generation Sorento for 2024. But the hybrid that you see here had to wait until the 2025 model year. And that means for 2025, the same hybrid powertrain carries a new look outside and modern tech inside. Let's take a closer look. Looking at the front of the car, it's a pretty big change from the outgoing model, and I would say it is definitely an improvement. Kia took a lot of inspiration from the Telluride, and you can see that in these vertically stacked headlamps right here, and just generally a more squared off vertical grille up front. We do also have this nice thin daytime running light running right here into the grille, and then this chrome perimeter for the bottom of the grille, and then the grille itself has a lot of chunky patterns built into it. Some of it is blanked out, but a lot of that is real grille right back to the radiator right there. Then the bumper itself sticks with the body color. Then you have this gloss black element right here before the lower grille, and more chrome, and then a lower lip way down low. There's a lot going on here, but I think it's executed well. And like I said, I definitely think it's an improvement over the 2024 Sorento hybrid. Way off to the side, you do have some air vents right here. These are functional to blow air into the outside of the front wheel well here and prevent a high pressure zone. And the hood itself actually has a lot of curvature built into it. So coming off the A-pillar here, you get this square 90-degree cut that kind of blends in here. Then it rises up a bit towards the center and fills the other side. You do also have this crease towards the front come down to the relatively new Kia logo right there. That's been around for a couple years now, but it is fairly new still. But despite all the styling changes that you see right here, I'm still more interested to show you what's underneath this hood. Well, there you have it. Your turbocharged 1.6 liter hybrid engine, 227 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, total system power. Most of the power does come from the internal combustion engine, but torque is actually evenly matched, 195 pound-feet from the engine and from the electric motor. Way off on the driver's side, you have a fuse box, and that also includes battery terminal hookups right here. And then you have the transaxle and some hybrid equipment right here. The intake is off on the passenger side and has quite a little journey. Starts up front, comes to the back. The turbocharger is underneath this plumbing here, back near the firewall and fairly low, but then the intake is on the front side, so the air travels around the engine bay quite a lot. The front axle center line is basically right at the front of this strut tower right here, following along this hunk of harness right here. So much of the engine is in front of the front axle center line, but the Kia Sorento SX Prestige is standard all-wheel drive, so that does help shift the weight a little bit. Plus, the 1.5 kilowatt-hour battery pack is farther back as well, so that distributes the weight a little bit. So it's not too terrible. The standard EX Sorento trim is base front-wheel drive, but all-wheel drive is an option there as well. Finally, windshield washer fluid is right up front on the passenger side, real easy to get to right here. Looking at the Sorento hybrid in profile, this gives you a good look at the mineral blue exterior paint. I think it's a perfectly lovely color, and I think it is a nice contrast to the polished metal design element you right here that kind of marries the front quarter panel with the front door. You also have another piece of chrome down here by the rocker, though this black right before it is a little bit interesting. But then you also have more polished metal right here for the window trim going around, and it gets a little big and fat right here, and that matches this more silvery looking roof rack right there. So there's a lot of like finished metals that are similar but not quite the same, that add interesting contrasts throughout the profile of this crossover. Here is another Telluride hint right here, this big vertically stacked hunk of taillight that you see right here. And we do have these very subtle rear fender flares right here, and then it meets this black plastic right before you get to the actual tire. Similar treatment up front, but the top of the quarter panel meets the side of the headlight right here, which is interesting. And then you also have a reflector right here. Also, you have a two-tone side view mirror cover, body color up top, gloss black down low with a nice little turn signal light in between. And this is a camera for surround view beneath that. Overall, aside from the contrasting colors, this is a relatively simple two-box crossover SUV design, and again, I think Kia executed well. Also, it looks a little bit bigger than it actually is. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen for you to check out and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. The one and only wheel size for the Kia Sorento Hybrid is a 19-inch wheel, and I have to say, in the modern era of big, it is completely welcome to see. And look at this, you actually have a little bit of tire sidewall to work with. This is a 55 series tire, 235/55R 19s. And yeah, to me, this is totally appropriate. Fits everything just fine. And I see no need to get bigger than that. If you go non-hybrid for the Sorento, you can get bigger than that, but I don't personally see a need for that. And yes, this is a square setup. The wheel and tire in back is the same size as what's in front. Looking at the Sorento Hybrid from the rear, again, lots of Telluride influence here. You can see that with the vertically mounted taillights right here and this neat little body color insert between them. It's almost like two stakes going down, or you could even say two legs. Also, the taillights do kind of extend out about an inch and a half past the body itself, which is interesting. And then this is a fairly steeply raked rear windshield right here, and then a fairly big roof mounted spoiler to cover that, which isn't for me, but I'm sure a lot of people like it. This camera mounted up here doubles as your rear view mirror. That becomes a screen if you flip it up. And then you have, you know, fair amount of texture as you go down. This tiny little extension right here, the Kia logo, that actually sents in a little bit, and then a big area for the license plate, another more standard rear camera right here, but then it extends out again, and then you have this like gap right here before you get down low, and then you have more of a matte black and then more polished metal down low, and then no faux tailpipes of any kind, thank goodness. There's one single tailpipe down here underneath the car, just as it should be. And this is a 3-row SUV, so there is actually a fair amount of space inside, or space for people, but not necessarily at the same time. The Kia Sorento has the option to get the smart open tailgate, which automatically opens up after a few seconds of recognizing that the key fob is nearby. That is something that is easy to turn off in the center display if you don't want that feature. But if your hands are full and you don't like lifting up one leg to do any kicking, that is definitely a convenient feature. And it shows you your cargo space. All 13 cubic feet of cargo space when you have all the seats up. Not very much, especially considering this steeply raked windshield back here, rear windshield, and the lean of the seats. You also see the $190 accessory cargo cover, and it's interesting, they actually have a set spot for it down here, which is nice in the sense that it won't rattle around if you're not using it. But as you can see, if you do need to carry 7 people, you don't have a lot of cargo back here. Fortunately, this is easy to fold down to bring more room. Pull on these straps, and now you have 45 cubic feet of cargo space and still room for 4. And as you can see, this is a much more generous space. And when you're back here, you can also see that we do have 12-volt power right here and some buttons that if we need more cargo space and only have to carry 2 people, just press these. This seatbelt was buckled. Okay, it would have gone down completely automatically if that seatbelt wasn't buckled, I promise you. And with both rows folded down, you actually get 75 cubic feet of storage and still room for you and a passenger. And you can see it's a fairly generous space, not too terribly wide, but fairly deep, and I would bet plenty of room for my bike, but let's find out. Yeah, no problem at all. Slid in without trouble, plenty wide, a little bit on the high side, and plenty deep as well. You can see I have several inches of space right here. So yeah, you can carry a bike, no problem. All right, let's take a look inside. The single most expensive option on this Sorento Prestige is what they call blue dust interior package, which gives us this blue leather as opposed to black and two-tone, as you can see on the doors, and I think it is well worth the $295 to add just a little bit less black to this whole space. And speaking of black, the privacy panel of the panoramic roof is closed. Let me fix that. Push button start is right here. Much better. You have a couple of buttons on the captain's chairs. This one down here to make easy access to the 2 seats in back. This is a 6-passenger SUV as equipped, and you can see that we also have a nice cup holder, a space, and a USB Type-C port right there, and another one on the other side, and that's where those buttons are to fold the second row from the liftgate. Looking at these rear seats, you can see that we're not much more than 6 or 8 inches from the ground. These are definitely for kids, these seats, and I would say small kids at that, but for young families, it's definitely a nice option to have. Also, the third row has another button up at the top to do the same thing from the third row. I am 5 feet 11 inches tall, and you can see I have several inches of knee room right here. Also, the seat bottoms are pretty darn high, so I have decent thigh support. So put that together, I definitely have less than a 90-degree bend in my knees. I also have heated seats for the second row, manual sunshades, a nice little cup holder right there, my own personal armrest right here, which is also adjustable, 12-volt power, and AC power right there. That's nice to have. And second row passengers have great access to these USB Type-C ports right here in the back of the front seats. So yeah, it is very comfortable back here, plenty of space, nice amenities, and a fair amount of natural light as well. Okay, let's go to the front. If you get an EX trim Kia Sorento hybrid, you would get synthetic leather, but it's real leather for the SX Prestige trim. Looking at the front door, you can see that we have 2-position driver seat memory right here and the typical controls right here. Another nicer look at the door trim and how it's adorned, I think nicely. We do have a couple buttons to the left of the steering wheel, including another way to open the liftgate and traction control on off. You can adjust both the tilt and telescope of the steering manually right here. The seats themselves are 14-way power adjustable. That includes adjustable thigh support and plenty of lumbar support options as well, with the other usual controls. The steering wheel itself is a fairly small diameter wheel, and it is reasonably thick for a decent grip. You do also have plenty of controls, cruise control options on the right, media controls on the left. You also have paddle shifters, upshift on the right, downshift on the left. However, these are also off-throttle battery charging, so you can decrease the amount of D-cell charging you get when you lift off the throttle with the positive, increase it with the negative, put it in drive, hit the negative paddle, level 1, level 2, or the maximum level 3. And you are also looking at what Kia calls the panoramic curved display. It is 2 12.3-inch screens, one right next to the other. The first one being your instrument cluster, the second one being your center display. The center display is standard equipment, but on the EX trims you get analog gauges and a 4.3-inch screen right here in the center. Kia calls this the connected car navigation cockpit. This is a fancy way to talk about a new processor that it has to operate faster and more seamlessly and with a little bit higher quality at the same time. In my experience driving the car so far, it works perfectly well. This also gives you wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. That is standard equipment, as is this dual zone climate control that you see right here, but specific to the SX Prestige, heated and ventilated front seats and a heated steering wheel as well. Heated seats are standard on the EX, but not the ventilated seats. You also get a couple more USB Type-C ports right there, as well as a wireless phone charger right there. Just behind that is your dial-operated Prindle. Turn it clockwise to go to drive, counterclockwise to go to neutral, and when you go to neutral, you'll get a little buzz every time, and then if you do a lighter push, that'll get you to neutral. Press the button for park. Beneath that, we have our drive modes right here, as well as a few other buttons. I showed you the heated steering wheel. This is also access to cameras, hill descent control, and your electric parking brake. And right next to that, we have a couple of reasonably sized cup holders that are fairly deep, a nice little tray right here, and then lower center console storage right there with this nice little removable tray. A couple of more SX Prestige features, a high-end Bose sound system to listen to, and a suede headliner. Isn't that lovely? Other than the panoramic sunroof controls, you have lights up here, but you do also have a rear view mirror that doubles as a screen for another camera back there. All right, let's dig into the drive modes. You do have a few. Do not have normal. That is not one of the drive modes. You either have Eco, Sport, Smart, or Snow, and you can also lock the center differential. And when you switch driving modes, it also shows up on the center screen right here: Eco, Sport, Smart, and Snow. So there you have it. The 2025 Kia Sorento Hybrid, all updated, just like the rest of the lineup had in 2024. There's a lot of nice features in here. Pretty darn tech forward and pretty darn comfortable as well. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.